it's Jai452 back again inside the land of cosplay, rummaging around, seeing what we can find on Inside Cosplay. Joining me this week is my very special guest, Alexander. Hi Alexander, how are you?
Well,
Awesome. So I'm just gonna jump right in there with a question and ask you, when did you first start cosplaying?
I think I probably first started cosplaying when I was probably 8 years ago. It was, I think my first cosplay was from Bleach.
Awesome. Um, do you remember which character or?
It was actually a tandem character. What it was both Hitsugaya, the guy who does ice. I still have his wig and I still use it for various things. And oh gosh, what's his name? Why can't I remember? Um, he was like the lead captain of, and he had glass. I can't remember his name, but yeah, it was two characters.
Awesome. Was that a cosplay that you made yourself, or did you buy it
That
in?
one, because it was my first time, it was definitely a bot cosplay.
Okay. Who or what inspired you to cosplay?
Um, no specific person really inspired me to cosplay. It was the whole experience from cons that made me want to cosplay. I just saw people dressing up as all these really cool characters and like, I want to do that.
Awesome. Is there anyone nowadays that can inspire you to cosplay?
Um, I would just say really good cosplayers are what inspire me, to be honest. That they don't have to be strictly professional. I've seen some really amateur cosplayers do amazing jobs. Um, and of course, I've seen some people who claim to be professionals that don't do a very good job. So it just depends on how good the cosplayer is, and that is what inspires me to do better cosplays.
Awesome. Um, what has been the most challenging cosplay that you've ever done to date, both from the making of a costume and the acting side? Because there is a tiny little bit of acting involved in cosplay, whether that be how a character speaks, or how they move, or how they would just pose, and even the interactions with the general public. So let's go with the making of a costume. To date, what has been your most challenging?
Uh, Interesting question. Actually, the most difficult cosplay I've had the worst time making was a very recent one. It was a character from a very unknown series called Bloody Roar. The character's name is Kronos. I specifically did his form that he's basically an anthropomorphic phoenix. That was hell and a half to make. Uh, it took like 3.5 months to make this fursuit, and it sure, and it was my first attempt at making a fursuit, so I was kind of going in blind while also trying to see like various videos on how to make a fursuit, and it's a very, very time consuming and painstaking process. And not only that, but most fursuits use like dog heads usually as the base. Um, Whereas he's a phoenix, so he had a bird head, and I had to figure out how I was going to do it. And it wasn't just a bird head. He has like, well, to also add on to that, he had like 6 wings, two of which were on his head. And so yeah, it was just a very, very difficult process, just trying to figure out how I'm going to do it and how to make it look good.
I don't know if it's on the same kind of level as that, but I had a similar issue for a
Okay.
con that I was going to. Um, I was doing like a newer version of my Suicide Squad Harley that I originally did. Now, my original outfit was a cut up white t shirt with an even smaller red t-shirt over the top of it.
Okay.
And obviously my blonde hair and my mallet, and that was me. So I decided, right, I'm going to revamp that. Got a brand new white t-shirt that was skin tight, sewed up the arms so that it was like more of a baseball t-shirt, painted it,
Okay.
did a skull with a jester's hat on it, my kind of where my stomach line would be, did a new overcoat, and then when it came time to doing the hair, I was like, I need something different. You know, I need
Okay.
something that isn't just plain peroxide blonde.
Right.
And I was like, I can't dye my own hair because, you know, I prefer my own hair as it is. So I got a wig in, and I was like, okay, this is a synthetic haired wig. How do I dye it? So I had to
Yeah.
learn extremely quickly how to dye a synthetic wig. And there is pictures on my Instagram of the process I was going through, but it was so difficult. You know, like, I
Hmm.
didn't know that you needed to have rubbing alcohol and Sharpies as a method
Yeah.
of doing it. And
Yeah.
where I live, rubbing alcohol is very, very difficult to come by. It's all antiseptic wipes that have rubbing
Hmm.
alcohol in their
Oh,
ingredients. And I'm like, ugh, I need the solution, not this horrible little wipe. And I think it was like a day, maybe 2 days before I was due to go to the event that
oh my.
my aunt came home with. It wasn't like the solution rubbing alcohol, but it was like this kind of hand sanitizer stuff that has rubbing alcohol in it. And
Okay.
it's like 70% rubbing alcohol, which is what I needed. And it
Okay.
worked amazingly. And I'm like,
Oh.
thank God, you know, because I couldn't work out how I was going to do it without rubbing alcohol. I was just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And like, while YouTube is a great method if you're trying to learn something for a cosplay, there was this one method that I just looked at, and being an artist myself, I was like, that's not going to work. Because this
Hmm.
girl was saying, okay, you use Sharpies, and instead of using rubbing alcohol, you use water. And I'm like,
Okay.
ink won't really run the way you need it to with water, especially if
Right.
you're putting it on a surface where it's having time to dry. You know,
Hmm.
and I'm like, it worked for her, but I doubt that it will work for me.
Right.
And it actually, like, when you think about it, when you're washing ink, it kind of like downgrades the color, and I needed the color to be vibrant and
Yeah.
not like sepia tone.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that's something completely different from what you're saying, but it's of a similar, like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the same question again, but this time, what has been the most challenging cosplay that you've had from an acting standpoint?
Um, I'm usually able to get into character very easily with any cosplay that I do, so the acting portion hasn't really been a trouble. Hasn't really been like a challenge for me.
Hmm.
But again, the most difficult to, I guess, perform in was definitely the cosplay I just mentioned, the Chronos cosplay, um, because fursuits are very hot. I
Hmm.
was sweating very profusely. Not only that, but the way I was able to figure out how to get these wings to stay upright was I had to wear a corset underneath this fursuit, and I had made holes in the suit to have the wings go through and attach to the corset. And and then on what was the most difficult part to, uh, I guess, get used to was the feet. I didn't make very well because they're supposed to be bird feet, and so I had to. So I thought, how can I get that texture? Um, and be accurate. And I used like 1 inch EVA foam to wrap around my legs and to create these giant feet, bird feet, because I couldn't really make them small because I had to go over a shoe. And, or at least that's the only way I was able to figure it out. And so it, I had a lot of fun doing that cosplay. I did. I will admit I did, but it was. I normally have a fairly long stride. I had to take like baby steps because I couldn't flex or my foot at all while I was walking. I had to go upstairs backwards and down. I had to go upstairs backwards, and this is also during a very big con in America called Dragon Con,
Mm-hmm.
and in the middle of summer. And of course, I had to go outside to go to various things, and it was like 90 degrees plus Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful. The best part though was even though only one person knew who I was, everyone else had no idea who I was, but they thought it was amazing, and I got a lot of photos. I still need to contact people to get photos to put up on my Instagram. But yeah, that'll be happening soon. But yeah, that was definitely the most difficult cosplay I've ever had to perform in.
I think as a cosplayer, there's always one costume that turns out to be a good idea on paper, but in reality it's a nightmare.
Yes.
And I always think it's good to get those kind of costumes out of the way in your kind of like career early.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember when I did a gender bent poison ivy.
Okay.
And I thought this is going to be great because you don't really see it that often in the UK. I mean, it's more of a thing that you see in America. And I've done like a gender bent Harley Quinn, and that was awesome. And I've done it multiple times after, because people just say, "Oh, you did Harley," and I'm like, "Well, I really don't have time to put together another costume. That one's there." Yeah.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do her, I'm going to do Ivy, and I'll do it my own kind of style. And obviously, Ivy's a kind of character that doesn't wear a lot in the way of clothing, so I kind of had to do this kind of like double thing where I was pushing myself to be more comfortable within my own skin.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not big in showing my body, and I think a lot of cosplayers are of a similar mindset sometimes.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, no, showing skin, can't do it." So I was like really pushing myself in that regard. So I did the costume. It looked relatively okay. I mean, after I did it, I was like, it could have been better. But when I did it was a bit of an issue because it was the middle of August for us. And August in the UK is very, very cold.
Oh, really?
Yes. August, October, November, December are our cold months in the UK.
Huh.
Like, really freaking cold.
For us, it doesn't start getting cold until, like, December.
Yeah, lucky you guys. So, while I was kind of like going through that, I remember going to the con and wearing a pair of sandals on my feet, shorts, and a vest.
Okay.
And so I'm really freaking cold. And everybody's going about the con and they're like, "I can barely breathe, I'm so warm." And I'm just looking at them like, "You motherfuckers." Like, I'm so freaking cold. Two instances that actually really illustrate this is when I ran up to one of my friends who was doing a gender bent spike because Jane's Masters was there, and she had this big long leather coat, and I was literally begging her to give me her leather coat, and she's like, but then I'll be cold. And I was like, but that's not my problem. I'll be warm, you can be cold. The second instance, I'm waiting to get a professional photo done, and one of the staff members of the place that we're in opens this door. Everybody else in the room just goes, ah, and I'm like, close the door. Just close it. Close it. And then I'll tell you about another thing afterwards about that same instance, which is it's super funny and super embarrassing, but okay, so my next question for you is kind of similar to the last one, but we're going to apply it to what you think as well as other people. So in your opinion, what is the most difficult thing or character to cosplay as, both from the making of a costume and the acting side in regards to both yourself and other people? So we'll break that down even further. What is a
character is difficult to both make and perform in?
Let's break it down a little bit further. What is a character that you feel that you personally would look at and just go, I'm not entirely sure how I would make that cosplay or act that character, so I might not do it? And what is a character that you would advise other people to really consider, not so much not to do, but to consider it before they do it? So let's start with yourself. What is a character you look at and think, I'm not quite sure how I would do that? I mean, it's okay if there's not a character that you can think of that
I think
you wouldn't do.
A character that I would like to do, but I'm not sure how I would do it.
Yeah, you can answer it that way.
Is this, if anyone is a Magic the Gathering nerd, and they're watching this channel, what?
I'm sure we have a few.
I'm sure people will recognize his name immediately. Is Nicol Bolas.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I would do it because he's a giant dragon who has a lot of Egyptian motifs in his character.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one character that I would like to do one day, but I'm not sure how I would do it.
Okay. What is a character or cosplay creature that you would advise other people to seriously consider before having a stab at it?
Like, okay,
like something that you would say is very difficult and you need specific skill sets in order to do something like that.
Anything with wings.
Right.
Anything with wings is definitely difficult because, yeah, you can buy wings at the store, but they're probably not going to be accurate to the cosplay that you are trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And wings are an extremely time-consuming process to make, especially if you're doing wings with feathers. Like, yeah, I know there are a lot of feather wings that you can buy at stores, but they're usually not very good looking, and they're not very accurate. And lots of people appreciate accuracy, and I've had to help someone make wings once, and to make one pair of wings, it took just for the wings, not the rest of the cosplay. It took about 4 months to make. Yeah, because we had to try to make it as anatomically correct as possible,
Mm-hmm.
as well as accurate to the character. And not only that, bless her heart, she's an engineer, so she wanted her wings to also move. So we had to place the feathers in such a manner that they wouldn't destroy each other. Ugh.
Yeah. I I've seen. It's really interesting that you say that wings are probably the worst thing ever when it comes to that kind of thing. But I've seen other people say anything that is armored or leather. So
Okay.
it's interesting that you say wings because I've seen people trying to make devices so that the wings can expand and open and close over, and I'm like, for all that's really, really cool and really, really interesting, I just sit there and think, okay, so while you've got this kind of skeleton that moves in this way, how are you going to attach material and or what like feathers or like leathery type stuff to that and not have the machinery like rip them out? You know,
Yeah, it was
it's
it's very difficult.
I can only imagine, and I'm really surprised that more people haven't said making wings. But obviously, these are people who have not kind of considered, ooh, I'm going to make something that has big, massive wings.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, Second hardest would definitely be leather and armor, I would say.
mm-hmm.
Um, though I have recently found out some tricks because of this Chronos cosplay
Mm-hmm.
on how to create armor. Um,
Ah,
yeah, it's actually pretty easy. Like you just get like I think a centimeter thick EVA foam,
mm-hmm.
and you need a heat gun, and that's pretty much all you need. Well, and of course scissors and glue and such. Um,
Yes.
but that's those are the only specialized things you need. And then when you create your armor, you basically create a duct tape suit of
Yeah.
what part of armor.
And for things like that, guys, YouTube is a really good avenue to look at because um, you can practically find any type of armor build on there. I remember, I think it was the day before I went to go and see Wonder Woman at the cinema, and I was just like poking around on YouTube to see what cosplay kind of stuff I can find, and I remember seeing somebody just taping themselves up to have the Wonder Woman look from the movie. And believe it or not, I think it was a guy making like the armor bodice for himself, and I was like, that is fantastic. You know, like,
Hmm.
well done, you sir. The sheer fact that you can tape yourself up and cut yourself free, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
It must have hurt
doing it by
like
yourself is very difficult. It very much is.
I think he was on his own. And the reason I felt really, really sorry for him was he had a bit of a hairy chest. And I'm like,
Well,
that must have hurt like a, you know, when you cut yourself free.
what you're supposed to do for like just a heads up for if anyone's who's watching this is interested in making armor. First, first, plastic wrap around yourself
Yeah.
and then tape on top.
hmm And also have somebody else there with you. So then if
Yes.
something does go wrong, you can blame them. It's your fault. That's always handy though. You know, have somebody else with you in general in life so you can blame them.
Always have a partner in crime.
Yes, yes. Okay, so my next question for you is there are two types of Comic Con that you can go to throughout the year. There is your big once a year ones, things like your San Diego Comic Cons, your New York Comic Cons, or there's the smaller, more local ones that happen, I want to say, every month or every 2 weeks in the case of America. I think it's like, oh, every 2 weeks there's a Comic Con in the local area. I'm going to go to it. Out of those two, which do you prefer going to more? Do you prefer the big once a year ones or the more smaller, intimate local ones? Or do you
I
like a
like
blend of the
both
two?
for reasons.
Okay.
Um, let's see. I like the big ones for when I want to like display a cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are definitely the best places to like display like a cosplay you've like really worked hard on and it came out really well. It's great for exposure. It's also great to those are also really good just for like all the amount of people you meet if you like meeting people. They also have a lot of really cool events that you can go to during these cons. Though it's very high stress and high energy,
Definitely.
and so it can
Definitely.
wear you down a lot. Um,
I don't think.
the smaller cons, I will say, are nicer in that there's a lot less stress going into those kinds of cons, um, and you can those the smaller ones are definitely like a go with the flow, and you can definitely make lasting friendships in those ones, whereas the bigger cons, those are more for like networking, I guess.
Yes. I always feel that while the bigger cons are great, you can go and meet celebrities like Robert Englund or anybody from Game of Thrones, or if you live in the UK, anyone from any of the Doctor Who shows.
Right.
You know, it's fantastic to go and do that, but you don't really get an awful lot of time, I feel, to socialise. I think the bigger cons suffer from, and I'm going to get so much hate mail for this, but it's a thing, guys. It's a thing, so deal with it. But I feel the bigger cons suffer from what I like to call a New York minute. It's like you
Hmm.
get enough time to just say hi to the person, and then
Yeah.
something along the lines of, oh, you look fantastic, and then either they have to go or you have to go,
Hmm.
you know, because you're being called away to do something. So it's like 20 seconds of just, hi, how are you? You look great, bye. And
Yeah.
that could be with somebody you've known for the better part of 25 years or something, and you just think, did that conversation just happen?
Yeah.
You know? Whereas at a smaller one, if you to bump into that person again, you would find that you would have more time with them. You might have the better part of half an hour chatting with that same person, which is really a whole like different kettle of fish in my view. But like we say, there are certain advantages to the smaller ones and the bigger ones, so it's good that you like a blend of the two. I'm very much inclined myself for that. Okay, when you are doing a cosplay event, what is the one thing that you're most excited for, and also the one thing that you either still are or not so much anymore find the most nerve-wracking about going to the events? So let's start with the thing that you're most excited for.
I am definitely most excited for actually just cosplaying and seeing all the reactions that I get from my cosplay. Um, I'm definitely like I guess I'm like a crowd pleaser in that sense.
Hmm.
Um, and like this past most recent con that I just went to, um, it was Kronos, and again, people thought it was amazing, even though all but one person didn't know who I was. And I got a lot of pictures with kids, to be honest. I was like, this is interesting. I didn't expect to get pictures with kids. Like, I get pictures with like over 100 kids or something like that.
Awesome.
Someone thought it was really cool. I definitely scared some of the kids because some other kids. I wasn't trying to, but the character doesn't look the friendliest. I will say that. Um, and then other cosplays I did was a gender bent Yang from Ruby. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Um, and there was a whole Ruby cosplay group that was going on. Um, then, yeah, it's definitely the reaction. That's what I look forward to and am still excited the most for is the cosplay aspect. Yeah, and I would say a very close second is meeting all my friends that I can only meet at cons.
Okay. It's funny that you mentioned that you were doing a gender bent yang because when I was at my most recent Comic Con event, I ran into a yang who was standing alongside Ignis from Final Fantasy
Okay,
15. And I was like, oh, that's so fantastic. And she was so, so polite, and she looked amazing. Like, it was like she just literally took the character off of the screen and just said, right, I'm knocking you the hell out, stealing your clothing and weapons and wearing it to this con. It was
nice,
so, so accurate.
nice.
Oh,
I love
it's
cosplays are like that.
scared the living hell out of me. Um, but, okay, so let's talk about something that you either used to or still kind of do find nerve-wracking when you're doing Comic-Con events. If any.
Nothing specifically about the con, but if I this happens to me too often. It's when I'm coming down to the wire and still making cosplay like a day or less before the con. Worst I've done, the worst that I've ever had to experience. So I was invited to a Comic Con a
Mm-hmm.
week before the event, and they all wanted me to be part of their like group cosplays and such. Um, I made at that con 3 cosplays. I did not sleep. Just so you all know, I did not sleep. It was while I was so we carpooled, and while I was in the car driving to the con, I was making one cosplay. I wore it the next day, and then that night I made the next cosplay and wore that the next day. It was
I'm beginning to see
ugh.
a pattern here.
That making cosplays last minute or when you don't
Never a good
audition enough
idea.
time to make your cosplay, that's the most nerve wracking part for me.
I don't know how people do that because I'm somebody that tends to plan a little bit ahead, So
Well, I usually do too, but again, 1 week is the notice I
I know,
had.
I know, I know, and I do have a story I can share with you about a little amount of time I had to put together a costume for not a Comic Con event, but something very, very along those lines, kind of thing. Um, but I have a friend of mine that literally is one of those kind of people who is never. I don't say. Well, I'm not going to say that because she'll get me into trouble for it. But she's one of those kind of people that could work and work and work and work and work on a cosplay or anything really, and it can look fantastic to somebody else. And you might look at a particular costume of hers and say it's done, it's finished, it's fantastic. Whereas she would look at it and say, but it's not done. It's missing like this part of it or this part of it, and I didn't get a chance to put this part on. I did hear of a story that she sat one night in a hotel and stayed up to basically 5 minutes before the con sewing more stuff onto it, and I'm like, how can you do that? Like, I understand having insomnia and such likes, but I couldn't stay up to 5 minutes before the con is due to start just sewing away. Not without punching somebody out, you know? Like,
I
I,
know
I don't,
exactly how she feels.
I mean, as a fellow artist, I can understand seeing the imperfections in your own work, but to the extent where you're like sewing 5 minutes before a con, it just seems insane to me.
Hmm.
So I would say that's one thing that all cosplayers should work against. Like if it's not like if you're 5 minutes before the con, do yourself a favor, go get a burger or a drink or something, you know, your costume will be fine, and nobody really notices when there's something like minuscule wrong with it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, people like it's good to be as accurate as possible, but if it's just like a little patch that's just like a patch, not like a symbol, people aren't really going to notice that. Or if it's like this random little line, people aren't going to notice that's missing.
Exactly.
As long as it is mostly, like if it's like 80 to 90% complete, that's good enough.
Definitely. I mean, that is another thing to kind of like just elaborate on it with that is that the people are not like a lot of people I know don't really tend to focus so greatly on the costume. It's the costume plus the acting. So if you're like 95% complete with your costume, the other 15% is your acting. So just make sure you're on point with that, and that makes the rest of the costume. So don't stress, guys. I think is what we're trying to say. Like, don't completely stress about something small.
When you're in character for these cosplays, if you look the part, but you're like, no, I don't want photos, or no, don't touch me, or just being unfriendly in general and not even being in character, people aren't going to like it. They'll say, yeah, you look good, but I don't like you.
Interestingly enough, have you ever done a cosplay that is so far removed from who you are as an individual, like a completely different personality from what you are normally, that was kind of difficult to get into?
Let's see. I have cosplayed as the Joker once. This was before I started taking photos of me, or like had a page or whatever. That's difficult to get into character. Well, it's difficult to stay in character because it's very exhausting being crazy and over the top all the time.
I know exactly where you're coming from with that one.
Yeah, with Harley.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's fun to do, but like I know some people that are able to just be him and just be him throughout the con. Mm-hmm. And I'm like even when they're just walking, I'm like, you have a lot of energy.
Oddly enough, the Harley wasn't too much of an issue for me, because a lot of people say I have a very, not greatly similar personality to her, but I'm kind of bubbly like her once I get going. To which I say to those people, obviously, you've seen me at a position in time when I've either been high on sugar or completely and utterly inebriated. But the character...
alcohol does help sometimes. People.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Oddly enough, the character I had the most difficulty with was Poison Ivy. Because I had to think, okay, it's easy for a female to slip into the role of being very seductive and such likes and hanging over God knows what. And I was like, how do I do that as a guy but still maintain like a small semblance of my dignity? You know? And I just kept kind of like bouncing back and forth on that, and I during the actual day of the con I just couldn't figure it out, so I just kind of sometimes did it and sometimes didn't do it.
Okay.
So it was an interesting day, that one.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, you go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Yeah, it was like definitely gender bent stuff can be difficult, especially if they have a personality that is opposite of what you are. Yes. It's like, again, especially like your example, you're a bubbly, happy person normally, I'm guessing, and Ivy is definitely more of a she's not reclusive. She's secretive while being seductive.
Yes.
And most guys can't really
Pull
portray
that
that because,
off. No.
yeah,
This,
it's
I
difficult.
think, yeah, it's very, very difficult. And I've never seen, like, I have a friend who lives over in the States that has done Poison Ivy before, and I love his Poison Ivy cosplay. Um, but I've never seen him act that way. Like,
Hmm.
I've never seen him pull off the seductive side.
Okay.
Um, he's pulled off the seductive side in other ways, but it's just not. It doesn't come across like overly, like how Poison Ivy like overly emphasizes. Oh, I'm seductive. I'm seducing Batman, or I'm
Hmm.
seducing Harley, or you know. I think that in retrospect is very difficult to do for a guy, as we've kind of said. But I'd love to see it done, and
With
I'd
that,
love to know if he can do that.
it's difficult for a guy to do that without being creepy.
Yes. That I think that was the issue I was coming across. I was like, how do I do this without looking extraordinarily creepy?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, and I didn't figure that one out. I'm still in the process of trying to figure that one out. If anybody
I
who's watching this
best
video
way to do
knows,
it, anyone who's watching this video,
uh huh,
it's thinking of doing something, a character that's like that, is um, be flirty and not trying to
yes.
seduce. I think that's the best way to go about it.
I think that's what I ended up doing for like half of the day, and then the other half of it, I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered anymore. I just can't be bothered. Yes, I have leaves here.
Oh,
Um, so my next question for you is: when you've been at the Comic Con events, have you taken part in the cosplay competitions?
um, I have. I've done more group cosplay competitions than solo.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Yeah. The one of my favorite competitions I was part of was when I did a Rise of the Guardians group cosplay. I was the Easter Bunny.
Okay. Um.
I was basically like I was definitely a humanoid version
Hmm.
and large bunny ears, and I basically was like Tarzan, but body painted as the Easter Bunny from Rise of the Guardians.
That's kind of interesting that you mentioned Tarzan because somebody else I know who lives on your end of the world just recently did the Disney version of Tarzan.
Okay,
I'll name drop him to you later. So,
okay.
but check him out on YouTube and his Instagram and various other places. Awesome. He also recently did Kid Buu from Dragon Ball Z as well, which is pretty cool. There is a video floating around, I think, on Facebook of how he was made up to look like Kid Buu, and I was in total disbelief the entire time because the makeup artist is using this tiny little color thing. It's like the size of a. It's like a little tiny bottle of concealer. Kind of like how
Okay.
it's kind of like, you know how you've got the lipstick thing, but it's bigger and flatter, and you use it to
Okay.
conceal stuff. Kind of like
Okay.
that size, and he basically covers this individual's upper torso and back, as well as the prosthetic on his head. And
Hmm.
I'm like, there's no way this tiny little thing is gonna cover his entire body. You know, just no way. But I was just astounded by the end of that. So, getting back to the taking part in cosplay competitions, have you ever won anything as part of a group?
um, we didn't really win money. Um, yeah, I don't think any of the competitions have like won people money that at least that I've
No, I
participated
just
in.
mean like, have you guys won anything as part of a group, saying
Oh, yeah,
like a
we
small
won
award or anything like that?
second place um, for the Rise of the Guardians group,
Awesome.
and it was fun. And that was also during the con where I had to make 3 cosplays.
Ah, okay. So I'm guessing you look back on that one with fond memories and go, I had to make 3 cosplays. One of them won something, so well
Yeah,
done me.
yes.
Awesome.
um, and then uh, a few years later, with the same group of friends, we did a DC steampunk.
Ah, no, I have seen pictures of you in that
Yes,
kind of
my
steampunk
steampunk
picture.
stuff. That's what I
Yeah,
did.
really did
Um,
like those. I was like, now that is different, and I love it.
Thank you, thank you. I want to just that's like become one of my go-to cosplays recently. I just want to add one thing to it, and it's just a long yellow scarf. It has to be light enough so I
Oh,
can just pillow when I walk.
awesome. Now, talking about cosplay competitions at Comic Con events and such likes, some people I've spoken to have had the privilege of being asked to judge at these types of events. Have you been asked to do so? And if you haven't, is it something that you would like to do?
I have not been asked. I guess I would like to judge those events every now and then. It would be fun. Though, even though I seem to be a nice and personable person, I would be judging very hard. I would be like the Simon from I think it's America's Got Talent.
Yeah, Simon Cowell. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
who
I
you're
would
on
be like.
about. Um, it's kind of weird that you say that because like the people that I've spoken to have all said they feel so blessed to do it, but they're also thankful that there are either 2 or 3 other people there with them
Mhm.
because it is such a difficult thing to do because you're looking at so many different cosplayers. Some of them are your friends, some of them are not your friends, or at least not yet, kind of thing. And to judge somebody on their cosplay, they just think, oh, I can't do that. And then some people think, oh, well, there's this cosplayer who I think is amazing and should really get something, and somebody else got a win, and blah, blah, blah.
Well,
So, from
I,
that
one thing
standpoint,
I'd be like Simon is I'd be the one who'd be nice about judging the harshest.
I'm kind of thankful that I've not been asked as of yet, to judge anything, and I'm kind of thankful that I'm not well known enough to be asked.
Right.
Um, but it is something that I would be interested in doing at some point. But at the same time, I'd pray to God that there are like 2 or 3 other people who know what they're talking about
Right.
alongside me that I can just go, right. Well, I agree with that. I
Yeah.
would find that really difficult. I mean, I've been to Comic Cons where there are young children, even babies, who are, I wouldn't even say 3 months old,
Hmm.
and they're in little tiny baby costumes, and I'm like, I can't judge that, because, like, baby, cute, you know? Like, the year I was Poison Ivy, Sean Astin was also there, so there was a lot of people doing stuff from Lord of the Rings. And I remember I went up into the aisle to sit down because, I was so tired from being on my feet all day long. Um, and I was like, if I'm going to sit down, I need space to sit down because I have vines all around me and I need to be able to sit and adjust my vines. Um, so when I was doing that, I noticed this woman walking and she was carrying something, and I was like, is she carrying a teddy bear or something? And she puts it up over her shoulder, and I see this little baby, and I'm like, oh. Then she turns around fully, and I see the baby's in a little hobbit costume. And I was like, yep, if that baby enters the cosplay competition, nobody else is winning.
I mean, that is like a perfect cosplay for a baby.
It is. It is. I would have said a toddler, but little baby, fair enough. Maybe she only had a baby. It was like, I had this baby. I'm going to use it.
Perfect, but it's more cute with a baby.
Probably. But yeah, I mean, from that aspect alone, I wouldn't be able to judge, like, fairly, I think. But who knows? So that is something that you'd be interested in doing, and it's obviously something I would be interested in doing as well at some point. But when it comes to these events, in your opinion, what are the best and worst things that a new cosplayer can do when they're getting ready to go to a cosplay event, large or small? One really good thing that they can do, and one really bad thing that they shouldn't do.
That's a difficult question, I think.
Well, you can go with the obvious answers, like make sure you tell somebody where you're going, or if you're going to be in a big armoured cosplay or a cosplay that's really, really heavy, make sure you've got a lot of water with you.
Okay, so with my own experience, if you're doing anything like big armored cosplay or a furry cosplay or anything that puts you in a suit that gives you no access to pockets, and you have very little dexterity with your hands. Like usually, like armored or furry cosplays, you can't use your hands very well. Mm-hmm. Always have a chaperone if you're doing that cosplay, because again, they will be able to carry your things. In those big cosplays, people can't understand you. So your chaperone will be there to feed you water, feed you, carry your phone, carry your valuables, so that if you want to go out and buy things, you can with your own money. And it won't be, because unless you engineered your cosplay to have pockets, you still won't be able to access them because your hands will be obstructed. So definitely, if you're doing any kind of really big cosplay, have a buddy with you to be your caretaker for the day. That's the best advice I have for if you're doing that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The worst thing that you could possibly do is, well, to tandem with that, is to not follow that rule. But not using that would be not being friendly. Be friendly when you're at these conventions, because you're there to see people. You're there to, and everyone's there to have fun. So it just ruins both your experience and anyone's experience that you come in contact with if you aren't friendly. I mean, you're going to meet people, you're going to see people, you're going to run into people, there's going to be 20 people within a 5-foot radius of you at some point. So it's just good con manners to just stay friendly and stay positive, even if you're not exactly having the best time of your life at that moment, like suffering through 90-degree weather in a fursuit. or even hotter. I'm glad it was cool for Georgia.
You can go the opposite route and saying suffering through freezing cold weather and literally no clothing.
Yes. Yeah, just try your best to stay positive and stay in a good mannerism.
Definitely. Okay, so moving on. My next question concerns age differences.
Okay.
Now, age differences is a bit of a wide area of questioning, hence the reason I just put it down as age difference. But when I first started seriously considering Comic Cons and such likes and cosplaying, I decided I need more information. So obviously jump online, see what I can find, and any kind of group family dynamic that I could find within cosplay, it just looked as if people were dressed up, had a picture taken on their stairs in their house, and then went out to a costume party. So I
Okay.
decided to go more in depth and look at Comic Con ones specifically, and any like big cosplay picture, group picture that I could find, there seemed to be an interesting dynamic of people between the ages of early to mid-teens to mid-30s.
Okay.
And I thought, right, that must be the age bracket. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I fit within that age bracket. You know, I can speak to a person and say comic books, hero comic books, and they can say hero comic books back to me, and they'll be like, yeah, comic books. And that little skit is exactly torn out of another interview. So thank you to the person. You know who you are. So when I eventually did go to Comic Con and found that there were so many different people of all different age groups, I was kind of mind blown by that. Now, when you first started in cosplay, did you have a similar notion in your head? Did you think, oh, it's going to be this specific age bracket? Or did you just go in thinking, I'm going to see a whole bunch of the people here in costume?
Um, let's see. I would say, well, my first con that I ever went to was this con called Otakon. And it's one of the bigger anime conventions on the East Coast of the US. And because of anime, I figured most people would be younger. Um, and so I was thinking like teenage to like late 20s was what I was thinking was the age bracket. Um, and that was for the most part true because anime, and I know it caters to you. It used to cater to younger people, and now it's catering to like a very wide range of people now, which I'm very grateful for. Um, and when I went there, I definitely saw like some older people. Like I saw some people in like their 50s and 60s. And I'm like, all right.
That's
And yeah, it was, and so yeah, my first impression, at least for anime conventions, was younger. And then, yeah.
I think it's really great when something like that happens because you're not really expecting it. Like to have somebody cosplaying in their 50s and 60s and sometimes even their 80s.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh yeah.
I think my favourite thing I've ever seen on Facebook to do with this is an old woman who, now I'm not entirely sure if I'm remembering this correctly, but she was celebrating a birthday of hers. I think it was her 90th or her 99th.
Oh, wow.
And somebody said to her, I don't know if it was a family member or somebody from the nursing home, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she said, I want to go to Comic Con. Yeah? And
Right.
who's going to say no to somebody on their birthday? I mean, if you do, you're just an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You're a monster.
Monster. And this old woman was like, all right, we're going to go to Comic Con, we're going to have a great time. And she then thought, you know what? F it. Just, F it completely. I don't want to just go to Comic Con. I want to go to Comic Con and I want to cosplay. So she tells this to the family member or nurse, and they say to her, well, who do you want to cosplay as? And she thinks about it, and it ends up she wants to cosplay as Wonder Woman.
Okay.
So she goes along to Comic Con dressed as Wonder Woman. She doesn't have like a black wig or anything on. She has her own hair, beautiful long silver hair, and she's there with her walking frame, going around Comic Con dressed as Wonder Woman. And I
Okay.
thought, on two levels, that is so fantastic because it really does show on the cosplay side of things that it doesn't matter what age you are, that cosplay literally is for everybody. And it also kind of shows, because she, like, there was a little bit more to the article. She explains why she wanted to cosplay as Wonder Woman. Apparently, that was her favorite comic book, and she really admired the character. And I thought, for the people at the publishing side of DC, that must be something that's really fantastic, because here you have a 90-something-year-old woman who has said, right, I have followed this character since it began, and she's my favourite, and I am going to represent her at this event. So DC must have been going like, we're patting ourselves on the back, well done us, because we made such an impactful character to this individual who is, in a sense, her own individual person as well, who's kind of saying it doesn't matter what age you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I always really love little things like that, and obviously the little baby that I was saying about earlier, it's such a fantastic thing to see a family member getting their child, even as young as that, involved.
Definitely. Like, I did, again, your comment before, cosplay is for everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your body type is. You can find something to fit. And even if, like, say, like with Wonder Woman, yeah, she's supposed to look like this young, beautiful woman who's extremely fit, but there's with artistic freedom, there's many versions of like any character, even Wonder Woman. Like, again, I'm sure there's comics where like something happened to her and she aged, and they had to fix it. Um, and there's lots of artists that create like alternate versions of these characters, like Fat Wonder Woman. It's a thing. There's fat versions of every character. So you can find a cosplay anyone can find a cosplay to fit who they are.
Definitely. Now, sticking with the age theme, do you do any particular cosplays that appeal more so to a particular age group than any other?
I would say yes. Um, like, I would say the cosplays of characters that are more cerebral,
Mm-hmm.
those appeal to older groups, I would say, or cosplays of characters that have like really strong values and strong moral character. Those appeal to older people more.
Are you
How,
able to name any of those cosplays?
like Wonder Woman would definitely be a character that appeals to older groups. Though recently, because of the new Wonder Woman movie, it's because she's seeping into the younger groups. But
Mm-hmm.
she's more traditionally an older cosplay. Uh, Doctor Who
Mm-hmm.
appeals to more the older group, like middle-aged older groups. Um, those would be a couple examples I can think off the top of my head that appeal to
Is there
older.
any cosplays that you've done that appeal to any kind of like either younger or older age groups? Like, you mentioned that you've
Uh,
done the Joker before, and you mentioned Thanos as well. Um, Obviously, those are kind of like characters that would maybe appeal to, um, obviously Batman fans. You know,
yeah,
um, the Guardians of the Galaxy, not Guardians of the Galaxy, sorry, the Guardians Easter Bunny, that
Oh,
must have got
yeah,
a lot of attention from younger viewers.
yeah, it did.
Is there any other kind of cosplays that you've done that you've kind of found, oh, it's appealing more to this age group than any other age group?
Um, my Flash cosplay was definitely like the 20s range appeal. Um, and then I've also done a couple Kingdom Hearts cosplays. That appeals to
Awesome.
my age group.
I
And
think that
then
appeals to my age group too, because I'm familiar with it.
yeah, and then one cosplay from a very unknown series definitely appealed to much more to a very young age group. I didn't intend it for it to be that age group, but I just love the character. To expound, the character, his name is Yugo from a series called Whack Fu.
Okay.
It is a French anime and it's done completely in Flash. It's I highly recommend watching it in not English. The English dub is
Terrible?
pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
As is the
But
case with most
very
English
fun.
dubs.
Yeah, I.
You can agree with me
Uh,
there.
but yeah, the character, he's a very lovable character, and sure, I'm a lot taller and a lot older than he is in the series. Well, older. I'm not going to spoil anything. um, but he, like every time I wear that cosplay, like uh, I'll expound on this later. Every time I wear that cosplay, um, the kids just love me. They're like, "Oh my God, it's Hugo! Can I please give you a hug?" I'm like, "Sure."
I love
And
that. Like, I seriously love that when people run up to you and ask for hugs. I remember the very first time I went to Comic Con, I was doing my version of a classic Harley, and I found out later in the day there was 5 other gender bending Harleys there, but I was like the closest to the classic look.
okay,
And I'm walking down this aisle, and I had my big mallet with me, all constructed from cardboard. So before I get any hate mail saying, was it a real mallet? No, it was not real. It was cardboard. It would not hurt a fly. You know, it was falling to pieces every 5 minutes. So unless you got underneath it and it smacked you pretty hard, there was no way it was going to hurt you. But I'm walking down this aisle of all different vendors and such likes, and I hear this massive, loud Harley scream coming out from somewhere, and I automatically didn't click. You know, I just thought, it's probably one of the other Harleys. It's probably a female Harley, and I just keep walking. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting hugged from behind, and I honestly, like, no pulling any punches, but I honestly thought I was being attacked. I was like, oh dear God, I'm being attacked. Turns out it was this little kid who could only have been maybe 6, 7 years old, and he'd seen me from across the room and immediately wanted a photograph with me and just hugged the living hell out of me. And his dad obviously kind of teeters along, like, parent with child being annoying, and says to me, do you mind if I get a photograph? And I'm like, no, I don't mind, come on. Do you want me to smack you with my hammer? Wake you up, parent.
yeah,
And I'll share with you off camera an interesting and somewhat scary story about that particular child. But it is nice seeing young children just light up when they see you as the character.
yeah, and also a similar line along these similar lines is people, don't be afraid to do a cosplay of something that is not known or not very well known, because again, like with that Yugo cosplay just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
not very many people knew who I was, but when someone does, it is literally the best feeling you will ever get.
Um, okay, so moving away from age differences, unless there's anything that you want to add. No? Okay. We are going to talk about the bane of every cosplayer's existence, props. The other bane of every cosplayer's existence. You know, because the initial bane is the costume itself. You know,
True.
That's fair. I don't think any cosplayer will disagree with that, and if they do, they're a dirty, rotten liar. But the bane of most people's existence when it comes to cosplaying is props. And for me, props fall into two categories, and then three subcategories, which is one, it goes to a Comic-Con only. Two, it goes to a photo shoot only. So, Comic-Con, photo shoot. And then the three subcategories are, this prop is so large it breaks my back and I can only think about how I transport it from my house to the event. To the Comic-Con, well, the prop is medium-sized. It will not be a problem to transport, but it will annoy me if I have to carry it around for 7 hours. More. And lastly, the prop is so nice and small it fits in my pocket and I'm good to go. Now, obviously, depending on which cosplay that you're doing, it depends on what type of prop you're using. But when you're going to a Comic-Con, are you more liable to take the big back-breaking prop, the medium-sized prop, or the nice and small prop?
It depends on what the prop is, and that's a large portion of it. It's something that I can easily rest on the ground. I will be willing to bring a large prop, and I can just and if I'm using that prop, I don't plan on moving around very much. I will pick a spot, stand for a few hours, and that's where I'm going to be. If it's a large prop.
So would you be, like, obviously you're saying when it's something that you can lay down, let's say that it's a very big Comic-Con, like the once a year ones, are you more inclined to take a big prop with you then, or do you tend to say, right, it's a bigger Comic-Con, I'm not going to get the chance to lay this down? Would you then say, right, I'll switch to a medium size or even a smaller one?
That's a really difficult question.
Okay.
Because, it's a mix of both. Because if it's done really well, that's when I would definitely want to bring it to like a big Comic-Con. And of course, I do recommend trying to do your best on any cosplay you ever do. But say you work really hard on this one large prop, and it turned out really well, and of course you obviously put a lot of time and effort into it. You want to show it off. So I would recommend picking one day to have this, to do that cosplay that uses this prop, and that day being the day to showcase it and doing photo shoots and going to contests. But again, it's kind of weighing the effort with the reward that this cosplay is going to give you. If it's and it's perfectly all right if it's worth it to you to do it at a smaller con. People really appreciate it. Like there's this one con that's near where I live called Katsucon. It's a smaller con, and people love it when people do really big cosplays there. There's like almost no exposure, but people love it. and you're going to get people to give you lots of praise and attention if you do something really big and amazing at a smaller con. So there's various reasons for doing big stuff at big conventions and big stuff at small conventions.
When it comes to a photo shoot, are you more inclined to say, right, it's a photo shoot, I can pack my car or vehicle with all the props that I can basically carry and then go out to wherever the photo shoot is and pose with all of these types of props?
A normal photo shoot, not a con photo shoot?
Just a normal photo shoot, yeah, like a cosplay photo shoot that's not centered at a con.
Yeah, like for just just a normal photo shoot. I pretty much just bring as much as I possibly can of whatever I can, and then I ask the photographers, okay, here's all this stuff. What do you want me to use?
Okay, so moving on. We're still sticking with props for the time being, though. Do you make your own prop from scratch, buy it in and customize it, or buy it in ready-made?
I do a mixture of the first and second option.
Okay.
I have made my own props, and it's fun. It can be fun. And so, yeah, I definitely like making my own props, but if it's something really complicated and I'm not sure how to go about making it, I'll actually, I don't really buy it from a store. Usually, unless it's really close and I can just quickly just do a small edit. But that's very rarely the case with the cosplays that I usually choose, oddly enough. But a lot of times what I do is actually commission people that can do the really cool thing that I can't.
And on that particular front, I'm just going to say, guys, if you ever need to get anything commissioned for cosplay, whether it be a costume piece or a prop or just generally anything, don't feel ashamed about it. You know, because a lot of people have this kind of thing like, oh, I didn't do it myself, you know, it's less special that way. It is not. You know, it's a time saver. It allows you to work on other pieces when you can trust somebody to work on one particular aspect. You know, and
yeah,
you know, it's going to be kind of great.
Yes, and it gives you the chance to also help promote another artist.
Exactly. You know, I think from the most recent pictures I've had done, I'm wearing a knitted Harley Quinn type of jester hat, and it's kind of like a beanie hat almost. And I can easily, and will say right here, I did not make that. I did not make that. I have a friend who crochets and said, right, hey, you, friend, you love me, don't you? Well, make me this. And they did. And I get to advertise them and say, my friend made it and she's very, very talented. If you want a hat, go see her. Okay, so when it comes to the creation process of props, how long does it take you on average to make a prop?
It depends on the size.
Okay.
And depends on how complicated it is.
Okay.
Yes, like a sword can take me a day to make if I just want a normal basic sword. But if I want to make something really elaborate, like a really elaborate sword, which I am currently in the process of making, I'm still trying to figure out how to do it. I'm still in the design phase, and that's taken me too long.
Do you go through a similar creation process that I do when it comes to making props? And quite a few other cosplayers do this as well. You get all the materials that you need and you're about halfway through making it. You realise there's an issue and then you start talking to the inanimate object. Like, why aren't you working, prop? if you work, I'll be your best friend. If this paint, like, I'm trying to use on you, like, if you can get it to accept to go on to you, it would be fantastic. And then when that doesn't work, when bribing this inanimate object obviously doesn't work, you start to threaten it and say, look, I have spent the last 4 hours working on you. You are going to work. And if you don't, I'm going to throw you out the nearest window. And when that doesn't work, you start swearing at it. But we won't go as far as that.
I sometimes do that.
You're not alone. About 99% of cosplayers go through the exact same thing when making a prop.
Yes, it seems like it's going to be really easy sometimes, but then you don't realize that certain materials just
Don't like each
don't
other.
accept glue or something. Or like the glue, like it'll glue on, but it's like gets really brittle and easily flakes, and it's so frustrating. So you're not alone.
Just putting that out there for all cosplayers, we are not alone when we get looked at by members of the general public who think we should be locked up. So we're not alone, guys. It happens all across the world.
Yes, you have to be crazy when you do this stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. Crazy is part of the
Job description.
Thank you. So, moving away from that, I'm now going to ask you, what opportunities has cosplay opened up for you away from being in costume and doing Comic-Con events and getting to socialise or network with people?
It's definitely helped my modeling side of of my careers, I guess you could say. People definitely see my Instagram page and they go, "Ooh, he can do this. What else does he have? He probably has some really cool stuff. Let's see if we can get him in to do some even more cool stuff with us." That's primarily what it's done for me. It's also just made me have really cool friends, and some friends that I didn't know were like influential in some like cosplay areas. I'm like, wait, I would just like talk to you for like 2 hours, and you're like someone important.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, having at least a half decent cosplay, being in character, and being nice are like the 3-4 steps of being successful as a cosplayer, in my opinion.
Awesome. Okay, so my next question for you, and we're getting very close to the end, I think this is the second last question really, is who are you going to be cosplaying as next? So your next, like, 3 cosplays, the next cosplay that you're doing at your next event, a cosplay that you're working on for an event towards the end of this year. I know we're getting very, very close to the end of the cosplay year, really, and somebody that you're thinking of for next year. So let's start with who you're going to be at your next event.
My next event doesn't start until next month.
Okay,
I haven't really planned a new cosplay for that one.
that's okay.
Primarily because like I've just been busy with my own personal life. But one for future cosplay ideas that I've been thinking of is are you or any reviewers familiar with the term Gijinka?
I'm not, but I'm sure the viewers will be. So if you guys know, do put it in the comments section down there somewhere.
Well, I'll also explain primarily at least what I know. It's basically not an anthropomorphized version of an animal, but it is like that animal as a human.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I'm working my way of doing a Gijinka of Articuno from Pokemon.
Nice.
And because she's, I called it a she, she's one of my two top, favorite Pokemon. Um, and along the same lines, I'm also working on Mew.
I kind of gathered with the new t-shirt being on today, so yeah, there you go, guys. So who's the person that you're doing at your next event? Because you did kind of slightly start on that, but didn't tell us who you're going to be.
Oh, no, like I haven't really thought of anyone that was uh, new that I was going to do for my new event, for the next event.
So
But I'll probably do my Yugo cosplay and um, probably one of my uh, Kingdom Hearts cosplays because the next event I'm going to is Anime USA.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun. It's a DC based one, and so it's really close to where I live.
So
And then I'll probably also do this one's been a fan favorite ever since I started doing it. Maximilian Pegasus from Yu-Gi-Oh.
okay. Is there anybody that you're currently like? Is there any cosplay that you're currently working on or revamping in any sort of way?
I'm working on the designs on how to do the Articuno Gijinka.
Okay.
And then a cosplay that I'm trying to revamp is definitely the Kronos one. The one that I did at DragonCon was kind of like a prototype,
Mhm.
and I know what I can do to improve it, and so that's what I'm working on as well.
So my last question for you is: what advice would you give anyone who is new to cosplay but doesn't really know where to start?
So if you're new to cosplay, I recommend cosplaying as a character that is easy to do. So like you can buy most of the pieces and mix and match stuff from your wardrobe to look like that character, or just buy a few things online that looks like what they would be wearing. And do a character that is similar to what you look like. And I would highly recommend that being like your baseline into getting into cosplay. Um, yeah, that's the best advice that I can give, to be honest. Like, yeah.
Awesome. So, with that being said, guys, this has been Inside Cosplay. Alex has been Alex, and I've been Jai. If, however, you cannot seem to get enough of me, there is plenty more Inside Cosplay interviews on this channel, on the Jai452 channel. There is also some gaming series that you can go along and watch. If for some strange reason you cannot get enough of me, you can find me at this lovely website, igameonline.net. It is free to sign up to. As you can see, we have a Facebook and a YouTube page there as well, so do go along and visit them. If, however, you want more cosplay, there is a lovely set of people that you can go and see on the iGame website, just right here. They are the NAUK people, where you can catch up with Covey Kicks, Little Rascal, and Alphabet A Cosplay, all respective and amazing cosplayers. However, if you have questions either for myself or for Alexander, you can put them down in the comment section down below. Do subscribe to the channel, give us a good thumbs up. But let's say you maybe have a question for Alexander that you don't necessarily want to put in the YouTube comment section. He is going to hopefully now give us some amazing places that we can catch up with him and ask him questions if we have any further questions. So, Alex, where can we get a hold of you if we have any further questions?
So you can contact me on either my Instagram, which is Strauss253, or if you want to find me on Facebook, you can message me on Facebook, and it's my full name is Alexander Bruce Gordon. Definitely has my face as my profile picture, and I typically keep it that way. And yeah, just message me, and I'll respond to you as soon as I can.
Awesome. And we will try and respond to any questions that is put towards either myself or Alex in the YouTube video as quickly as we can. Both of us are very busy, so if we don't get to your question right away, we are very, very sorry. But in the meantime, guys, I've been Jai452, Alex has been Alex, and this has been Inside Cosplay, and we will be back with another interview really soon. Bye, guys.
See you.